Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today's video, I want to talk about something that just went down in Brazil maybe 2, 3 weeks ago now. I was just trying to figure out how I should approach this particular topic because I know I wanted to talk, didn't want to just talk about who won this particular reality show. But as I did some research on this, it really started to stick out like, okay, this situation has arisen again. So definitely have to talk about it. Today's video, the winner of Big Brother Brazil 24 was Davi Brito, the first Black man to win in the reality show's history. Some say no. So what's that all about? If any of you have followed this channel or the blackbraziltoday.com blog for any amount of time, it's going to be clear as to why such a question would come up. So before I get into this video, definitely take just a few seconds and like this video. If you can, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell. So let me talk a little bit about this today so we can figure out what kind of controversy might have arisen because of this question that I asked here today. Okay, so on the left is Davi Brito. He just won Big Brother Brazil's 24th season a few weeks ago. And then on the right is a guy named Jean Willis. He won Big Brother Brazil, I think it might have been season 5. So that was like 19 years ago. Okay. Big Brother Brazil remains the most popular reality show in Brazil. It's been #1 for a number of years. It's always been a question of Black participation on this show, but I'm not going to get into all of that. I've covered every now and then I do have to talk about something on Big Brother Brazil because, as I said, it's just really a mirror of Brazilian society, the issues that come out on this show. So what do I want to talk about in this video? Davi, the guy on the left, again, he overcame numerous challenges to become this year's champion or this season's champion. Once again, debates over the race issue that played out in the 24th edition, Davi being defined as the first Black male winner. Then he was defined as the first dark-skinned Black male winner. That's one of the major points of the video that I want to talk about today. Once again, it brings to the forefront this question of what is Black in Brazil, who is Black in Brazil, and then one of the most the best examples that exemplify this is the quota system in Brazil that for like 24 some years, 24, some say 25 years, the affirmative action program in Brazil was set up to benefit Black and brown and Indian Brazilians to be able to get into the university, make it easier for them to have access to university education. So once again, that comes to the forefront because as Brazilians have said since affirmative action was first rolled out, like with so much mixture in Brazil, how are we going to tell who's Black and who's not? Well, for me, in some ways, it's not an issue because the quotas are for preto, pardo, and índio, which means Black, brown, and Indian. So even if a person is not considered Black enough, we'd say, okay, are they brown enough? And sometimes that comes into an issue because sometimes you have people who are, somewhere between, say, indigenous and white. Sometimes you have very fair-skinned Black people. So it always becomes a dispute of who should be qualified for the quota system. Over the years, we've seen a number of problems with the affirmative action issue because you have people who have defined themselves as white all their lives. They see quotas on the table. Now they want to identify themselves as Black or brown. Then you have people who are clearly brown or Pardo people, and they're being denied access to the quotas because they're not Black enough. So the controversy over who should be qualified to be able to take advantage of affirmative action program, it remains a problem to this day. So I've seen some really ridiculous claims or ridiculous attempts to take advantage of the affirmative action program. I've also seen, and I've said this before, the Movimento Negro, the Brazil's Black rights movement, shoots itself in the foot from time to time when they don't let a brown person get in on quotas because they feel like they look too white. And so it always becomes a question to me, okay, what whiteness are we judging by? Because white in Brazil is different from whiteness in the United States. But if you have a standard for whiteness in Brazil that's different from what's in the United States, how is it that these people want to flip-flop? Okay, you've been white all your life. Now there's quotas on the table. You want to become brown. So that's a whole nother issue. This keeps going on and on right now in Brazil. There is this whole dispute between should brown people, what they call pardos, should they be considered part of the black population, using the word negative. So it's always been for black activists in Brazil, the combination, the sum of pretos y pardos, black and brown people, equals the black population in Brazil, and sometimes it becomes problematic. But anyway, let me get into the topic for today, and you'll understand a little bit more while I'm talking about this. So as I noted, the vast majority of my readers have never seen Big Brother Brazil, even though it's wildly successful in Brazil. I have to just explain a little bit about the obstacles that Davi had to overcome to win the prize on the reality show's 24th season. As it is in Brazilian society as a whole, Davi, being a black man, spent most of the show being labeled with common stereotypes associated with black men. When Davi was shown taking firm positions on the program, presenting his ideas, sharing his ideas and strategies, he was labeled as aggressive by the white women participants on the show. Given the stereotype of the aggressive black male, many viewers question why Davi was interpreted this way when white male participants in past seasons have never been labeled in the same manner for showing similar characteristics and attributes, similar, ideas and strategies. Why are they not identified as aggressive? And it's something that a lot of viewers pointed out. These are the two women who looked at Davi and said, "Oh, he's a little bit aggressive," like they're scared of him or something, right? So hats off to Davi. He stood firm throughout the show, and he managed to take home the prize, even with all the challenges that he had on the program. This was just one of them. Viewers also noticed how participants seemed to want to relegate Davi to doing menial tasks having to do with food preparation and cleaning in a manner that corresponds to the position Brazilian society likes to reserve to the black population. I've talked much about how black women are often mistaken for being cleaning ladies, or they're mistaken to be the maid. There was one video I did where a doctor was asked, if I think she was either somebody mistook her for a cook in a hospital kitchen, and she was like, she was wearing hospital scrubs. She had the doctor name written on her badge, and was like, "How are you mistaking me for a cook?" It's because Brazilian society believes all black people must be doing menial labor. Davi was also met with condescending attitudes because he earned a full ride scholarship to study medicine at a university. Instead of folks congratulating him on his achievement, the attitude he seemed to receive was that of this black man is being too, let's say, uppity. Now, of course, that's not a word that they use in Brazil, but I'm just saying that's the attitude that they had, towards why didn't they celebrate his achievements? Instead, like, wow, he's, you're celebrating too much, just it's just a little bit too much. It was just like being able to get a university education in Brazil is still a big deal, particularly for the black population. And instead of congratulating him, it's almost like they just turn their nose up at his achievement, right? Then perhaps most shocking displays that I saw and that made headlines on the program was the scene of another participant, also black, was seen screaming and provoking Davi literally inches from his face. The same woman was later seen throwing Davi's clothes in the swimming pool. This outlandish behavior deserves an entire breakdown in itself. When this went down, this black woman, Leiji, was seen. I just remember on social networks, it seemed like everybody was posting this video of her like rolling her neck in his face like she was a snake or something. I'm literally an inch or two from his face, and just provoking him. And Davi sat there with a straight face. I was just like, wow. That's why I say I had to take hats off to him for him keeping his composure under such, in such a situation where obviously he could have reacted. And then seeing this same girl throwing his clothes in the swimming pool. I mean, just ridiculous behavior. It was absurd because the woman was also black. And a lot of viewers saw her just seemed like she was doing everything to, I don't know, make the white girls, on the show happy. Like, look, when black women are in such a situation, they're going to have to choose, like, okay, are you going to defend the black man, or are you going to side with your female side? And I remember there was this one picture that was going around. They showed Davi and Leiji arguing with each other. There was an Indian lady standing between them, and then in the back of them was the blonde standing there with a smile on her face. It was like people was like, just look at this scenario. Two black people screaming at each other, an Indian girl trying to break them up, and then the white girl in the background, like getting entertainment out of all of this. So this is what I say. I'm not a big fan of Big Brother Brazil, but these things come out that you have to analyze. It's like, how can we not talk about this? I've been wanting to talk about this. So this is, today's video. I just wanted to go over Davi's victory because he overcame a lot to win the grand prize. So anyway, in the end, Davi stood strong against the odds and walked away with the grand prize. That's perhaps too quick of a summary, but I need to move on to the issue at hand regarding Davi's place in history. Again, this is Davi Brito, the first black man to win on BBB, Big Brother Brazil. Davi takes home the biggest prize in history. This first story is courtesy of the Correio 24 Horas newspaper. Again, the headline, Davi is the first black man to win Big Brother Brazil. Now, what's the problem with saying that? I mean, it should be obvious, right? Or better yet, why is there a problem? You see under this line right here, it says, besides Davi, Thelma was the first black woman to win on the reality show in 2020. Now, some people take issue with those labels, and it's just because of the character of how people see race in Brazil. So let's keep going. A native of Salvador Bahia, Davi claimed the prize of nearly 3 million reais for winning Big Brother Brazil 24. Through the dynamics that took place during the 3 months of the program, he also claimed another prize worth 500,000 reais, right? So these are 3 people from the state of Bahia who have won on Big Brother Brazil. This is Davi, this is Mata, and this is Jean Willis, whose name will be coming up shortly. Just stick around. We'll be talking about him as well. Davi is the 3rd Bahian to win the program, but the first from the state capital of Salvador Bahia. Besides these details, Davi also becomes the youngest man to win on the top-rated reality show at age 21. Here we have the headline: Champion Davi Brito, the first dark-skinned black man to win on BBB at 21 years. The Bahian or Baiano, he faced prejudice and he took home almost 3 million reais. Okay, victory. Understanding the importance of Davi, the first dark-skinned black man to win Big Brother Brazil. So why is it important to point out he's the first dark-skinned black man? Why do we have to go through all of that? The question is, okay, is he the first black man to win on Big Brother Brazil, or is he not? Let's get into why this is a question. So Big Brother Brazil 24 came to an end on Tuesday, April 16th, and consecrated Davi as the champion with 60.52% of the votes, as well as receiving the highest amount ever paid out for a prize on the show at 2.9 million reais. The 21-year-old Bahian became the first dark-skinned black man to win first place on the reality show. From the start of the program, the participant was confronted and excluded by the others, actions interpreted by some viewers as racism against the Bahian native. In addition, attacks were also made on the champion's social networks. The offenses were reported to the Bahian or the state of Bahia's public prosecutor's office in order to identify those responsible for those attacks. Another headline, Davi celebrates being the first dark-skinned black man on Big Brother Brazil. They're calling it historic. He is the 5th black person to win on the program. We're gonna get into that in a minute as well. During the program, Davi commented on some situations of racism he has experienced during his life and his dream of studying at a university. Becoming a doctor will be a childhood dream. Just thinking that I'm going to college with my car, I can stop my car in the parking lot and go to college to study quietly, just focusing on studying and coming home. Focusing on my studies like that and making my mother proud. A young man like me who was black, poor, didn't have any money, he would walk around wearing something like that and people would stare. As much as they say that the public likes you, we know that racism exists. Racism does exist. There are people indeed, yes, who even today have this way of looking at people who are black, who don't have many conditions. It's complicated, he said. So this is something that I've talked about throughout the life of my blog, as well as the YouTube channel, of how Brazilian society looks at black people who are outside of the stereotype. They're not poor. They might have a nice car. They might live in a nice neighborhood. And I've talked about this over and over again, how society reacts. Like, black people are not supposed to be in these places. And for years, that's the way it was. So with this changing of the guard, or I'm not going to say changing of the guard because Brazil remains as it mostly is, but I'm just saying more black people have risen socially and Brazilian society doesn't like it. So by winning the program, Davi not only shows the protagonism of a dark-skinned black person on a national network, but also stands out in a society still marked by racism with representation. In an interview with the Correio newspaper, Susana Xavier, a civil servant at the University of Brasilia, which is the nation's capital, member of the Human Rights Council, an activist, militant, and Black feminist, talks more about the subject and the importance of Davi's victory for society. The society we live in was structured on the basis of violence and exploitation of Black lives. And since then, it has been normalized to see these people in places of service. Again, that's what I just pointed out a few minutes ago. The idea that Brazilian society continues to see Black people being only worth serving, whiter skinned people. As a result, representativeness becomes extremely important so that the society can be seen as plural and open to everyone. When the Black population doesn't see itself in the mass media, in spaces of power, on company boards, and in political spaces, it shows that things aren't evolving, she said. Even with the advances in the last decade and a half, 2 decades, everything represented in Brazil is still represented through people who are accepted as white in Brazil. That's basically what she's saying. Brazilian society still has a problem with seeing Black people leave out of what they call their place. Davi, as a champion of Big Brother Brasil 24, shows young people what it means to have perspective, dreams, and a vision of change. This representativeness shows that it is possible for Black people to be millionaires, famous, political, and to be in big spaces. The stereotype of Davi as evil, marginalized, and violent was deconstructed by him with great competence, discipline, and serenity. A very resilient figure for his age and maturity that we don't usually see in young people, says Susana. So I'm saying Davi overcame a lot of odds with the way people treated him, the way he was presented, the way he was stereotyped. He persevered and he won. Davi managed to set fire to the slave quarters and take possession of the big house, a beautiful thing to see, she concluded. She's making a reference to, in Brazil, there was a famous book that the book it was translated in English as The Masters and the Slaves. In Portuguese, it's Casa Grande e a Senzala, which means the big house, slave master's house, and the Senzala, which means the slave quarters where the slaves slept. By making this analogy, Black activists in Brazil talk about the place that Brazil continues to put Black people in this slave quarters, and the white people are considered to still be in the big house. So whenever somebody succeeds this Black and Brazilian society, they say, look, they got out of the slave quarters, they set the slave quarters on fire, and the masters aren't happy. That's kind of like how people put it when they're talking about the ascension of Black people, out of the position reserved to Black people in Brazilian society. Aniele Franco, who is the Minister of Racial Equality in the President Lula's government, expressed her happiness on social media at the Bahians' victory. Brazil is going to sleep with the smile of a young Black man on national television. May Davi's determination and happiness inspire us to continue seeking a life of rights and opportunities for our Black youth, she wrote. This is Jean Willis. He was, what the headline says, he was the first Black man to win on Big Brother Brazil. So now we're going to talk about why there's been, some back and forth as to who should be considered the first Black man to win on Brazil. They've settled, because the point here is, if the Black movement wants to support the idea that pardos, brown or mixed people, should be considered as Black, you can't define Davi as the first Black man, because by doing that, then you're going to exclude Jean Willis from being considered Black. So the way that they resolve that is, okay, we're not saying that Davi is the first Black man. We're going to say he's the first dark-skinned Black man, because the first Black winner, a first Black male winner, according to some accounts, would be this guy here, Jean Willis. So this is what the headline says. Davi was not the first Black man to win Big Brother Brazil. Understand why. Davi's victory on BBB24 had a lot of repercussions, with many internet users celebrating the fact that their favorite participant had won the reality show's grand prize. But anyone who believes that he was the first Black man to win the show is mistaken. Okay. Although he had many historic achievements during his time on TV Global's reality show, he wasn't the first Black man to reach first place in the race for the show's grand prize. In fact, that feat was achieved on Big Brother Brazil 5. Do you remember that? Okay. A headline from March 29th of 2005, Jean Willis wins the 5th edition of Big Brother Brazil. So again, we're talking 19 years ago. Now, why is there a question of whether Davi should be considered the first Black man or just the first dark-skinned Black man? Because at the time, The winner of Big Brother Brazil was Jean Willis, this guy right here. The politician who was still only a journalist when he entered the reality show received 55% of the public vote in the finale. As well as being the first black man to win the show, he also has the milestone of being the first and so far only openly gay man to take the grand prize. Okay. So, how many people have won Big Brother Brazil over these 24 editions? This is Mara, this is Thelma Assis, and this is Glacy. So these are all of the black women or the considered black women who have won on Big Brother Brazil. So it says apart from Davi, Brazil has only had 5 black winners in all its 24 editions. Apart from him and Willis, the other black winners were Mara Viana, this lady here, Glacy Damasceno here, and Thelma Assis, who won in the 20th season. With the victory of the Baiano, or Baiano, or Baian in English, Baiano in Portuguese, the number of men and women who reached first place on the show is actually equal. Until now, the women dominated by a 12 to 11 count. Davi won first place, taking 60.5% of the average votes cast to elect the champion of this edition. Now, I want to talk about a few other things while I'm here as to why this is even a discussion. Who is Davi? Is he the first black man, or is he just the first dark-skinned black man? It's always going to be a question, because when you look at somebody like Jean Willis, okay, he's clearly a mixed man. He has one of those looks, and I have to be honest, sometimes when you look at people who have like a mixed ancestry, there's days when you can look at them and say, okay, they look like a light-skinned black person. And there's other days where you look and be like, I don't know if he's black. He's just kind of a mixed guy. And I see that with Jean Willis, because it just depends on how you look at him. I've noticed with Jean Willis, to me, he looks like a black guy when he has his hair short and he has a clean, he's shaven. When he grows his hair out and then he has a beard and a mustache or whatever, I don't know. He looks kind of undefinable to me. I mean, clearly he's of mixed race, but there's just times when it's just like it's up for grabs. How many people see him as being black? How many people see him? Okay, he's an African descendant, and people would just say he's mixed. So that's what the question is here. Now, a few seasons ago, when this lady here, Thelma Assis, won in season 20, people were pulling for this guy here, Babu Santana, a popular actor. He went on the show, and I did a story about him. Like, why is this award-winning actor appearing on Big Brother Brazil, and well, Babu Santana needed to pay his bills. And even being a top-rated actor with all of these roles in movies and films and miniseries, he still had trouble paying the bills. So he popped up on Big Brother Brazil to try to he wanted to win that grand prize. So people were actually saying in 2020 he would be the first black man to win on Big Brother Brazil. But then it comes in again, how you see Jean Willis. How do you see this guy right here? Okay. So in 2020, they were talking about Babu has the chance to become the first black male, but it's always going to come into that question. This question has arisen also with season 18's winner, the champion of Big Brother Brazil 18, Glacy Damasceno. Some people didn't consider her to be black. And, when I look at Glacy, to me, what I see is she clearly looks black to me, but people were arguing because she had straight hair, she shouldn't be considered black. But then when I looked at other pictures of Glacy, I see that she does have curly hair. It just appears that she straightened her hair in some manner in some of those pictures. Okay, so there was a dispute over whether Thelma Assis should be considered the first black woman, because there were 2 women before her who were considered black. Okay, so this is Glacy Damasceno. This is another picture of Glacy Damasceno. I mean, she looks like a black woman to me. This is Mara Viana from season 6. Some people consider her black, some people don't. So that's why you always had this dispute in Brazil on what should be considered black. Then over the years, there's always been a dispute on Big Brother Brazil from Brazil's black population. Like, there was a minority of black people participating in the reality show for a number of years, to the point that when you got in the last 5 years, you've seen more and more programs and the headlines would just say, hey, this is the biggest number of black participants in Big Brother Brazil's history. So in Big Brother Brazil 21, it had the largest number of dark-skinned, negros retintos, they call them, the largest number of dark-skinned black people since the first edition. So this is what the headline was in April of 2021. And these are some of the contestants, black people on that particular season of the reality show. You know, Carol Conká, the rapper. This is a comedian, Nego G. This is an actor, Lucas Penteado, a social influencer, and Camila G. Lucas. Lumena, who's a psychologist and a DJ. Then you had Joao Luis. Now, Joao Luis is, he has fair skin, but I don't see that a light skinned person can't be considered black. You clearly see the afro there. You see his features. He strikes me as a black man as well. And as I said, there's always been a question of how many black participants there are on Big Brother Brazil. So this stat, I think this was from 2021, or I think it was from this particular season, season 21, where they were saying they counted up the number of black participants in the history of Big Brother Brazil going all the way back to the first season. And it said at that time of the 327 participants that were on the most watched house in Brazil, only 56 were black, which I think is slightly more than 1 out of every 6 participants on the show. So this is why I wanted to highlight this in this particular video as to how people see Davi. Davi is a clearly black man, while Jean Willis is a little bit more on the mixed side. And so then they presented the winner in 2 ways. They presented him as being the first black man to win on Big Brother Brazil, and also just the first dark-skinned black man to win on Big Brother Brazil. So I'm curious to know. I've shown you a number of pictures of some of these contestants, some of the participants, some of the winners. What do you think? Should Davi just be considered the first black male to win on Big Brother Brazil, or should he be just considered the first dark-skinned or clearly black man in comparison to Jean Willis? That's the question that I'm posing today. I'm going to leave it up to the people. I've always said that because whatever opinion I might have about somebody being black or not, there's always going to be a dispute, like that guy's not black or clearly he's black, whatever it may be. Weigh in on the comments. I'm curious to know how you guys see this particular question. Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that you know when I put up another video. And with that said, I'm going to end this particular video and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post.